Okay, so I've never done a video like this before where I just kind of talk about a game or a series of games, but I just finished the Final Fantasy XIII Trilogy, and I need to talk about it. First off, when I say finished, I mean I'm finished with the series. I was planning on doing my first playthroughs of all three games live on my Twitch stream, but Final Fantasy XIII and Lightning Returns are the first two games I've ever streamed where I actually had to just quit playing. If you like these games, I'm going to warn you that I'm probably going to be saying some very bad things about them. I do not like this trilogy, but if you do, that is completely okay. In fact, it makes me happy that some people actually enjoyed them. The Final Fantasy XIII Trilogy to me is bad, but it's not all bad. So let's begin. So going into Final Fantasy XIII, I was actually very excited. As a longtime Final Fantasy fan, these were the only games I had never actually played. I heard almost nothing but bad things about the games before playing them, but once I started streaming them, it attracted Final Fantasy XIII fans to my Twitch channel. These people loved this game and helped me to press on. Most people who didn't like the game said that the game doesn't get good until Grand Pulse or Chapter 11, which for me was about 20 or more hours into the game. Luckily for me, I fell in love with the story right away. Lots of people online would talk about how crappy the story was and how they hated all the characters, but for me it was quite the opposite. The only character I didn't like was probably Hope, and I really liked the story. For me, it was the gameplay that made this game such a stinker. Not just the new battle mechanics, but the overall lack of balance the game seemed to have. It reminded me of parts of Final Fantasy X too. You'd be in an area grinding on enemies, but getting next to no EXP because of how overpowered you seem to be. Then you'd go and fight the boss in the area only to get one hit killed halfway into the battle. And I'm dead serious here, I had full health, maxed out my levels, and still got one hit killed by a boss when I finally decided to quit playing this game. This lack of balance was probably the worst part for me, and it didn't hit so hard until you get to what everyone was telling me was the best part of the game, Grand Pulse. I hated Grand Pulse, and I hated the battle system. I will admit I'm probably just not very good at using this battle system. If I had paradigm shifted all my characters to a sentry roll before the boss used his one-hit kill move, maybe I would have survived a few times. But another problem with the battle system was there was such a wait between when you'd select your paradigm to when the characters would actually change roles. Usually in that period of time, you'd get attacked and killed. Also, all it took to get game over in this game was for the leader of your party to be killed. I think the creators knew this was garbage and made it so you just respawn right before the battle to somehow try making up for it. Anyways, I ended up quitting Final Fantasy XIII immediately after Grand Pulse, and I'm glad I did. You see, I was invested in the story and its characters, so after quitting the game I went online and watched the rest of the game as a movie with all the cutscenes. I'm pretty sure those final boss fights would have put me in a mental hospital. But that ending, goddamn that ending, it was beautiful. Such a perfect ending for a great story. But wait, they made a sequel. Final Fantasy XIII-2 is a sequel that didn't need to exist. In fact, it didn't need to exist so much that they had to change the perfect ending from Final Fantasy XIII so that they could give an excuse to keep the story going. So Lightning is basically plucked out of time to guard the goddess Etro in the world of Valhalla. I felt the story in 13.2 was not its strong point, but overall I really enjoyed this game. You play as Sarah and a dude from the future named Noel. Basically, Sarah is the only one who remembers the ending of Final Fantasy XIII, and everyone else thinks that Lightning was crystallized in the pillar along with Fang and Vanille. So Noel and Sarah travel throughout time to try and get Lightning back. This game fixed everything about Final Fantasy XIII's mechanics. The battle system was more or less the same, but now, if the leader dies, you get to control the other character, you know, like any other JRPG. Also, the transition for paradigm shifts was now instant, so no more getting picked off while switching roles. You could strategize a lot better and have everyone immediately switch to a defensive role when you see the big attacks coming. Hope even grows up and basically becomes the president of the new world and is actually very likable now. I haven't even talked about the best part though. There's monster recruiting. That's right, your third character is a monster of your choosing, each with their own roles and abilities. I love just grinding for monsters and leveling them up. I actually spent time doing side quests and just enjoying the game as a whole with 13-2. That is until the bullshit ending. Why, Square Enix? Why? I wish so bad they would have just ended the game with Sarah and Noel defeating Caius and bringing Lightning and Sarah back to their own time to live happily ever after. But for some dumbass reason, they crapped all over this great game by giving it a horrendously bad ending to barely set up the third game in the trilogy. It's almost as if making 13 a trilogy was more important than making 13 good. Lightning Returns. Man, this one was not a game made for me. There's no grinding in this game whatsoever. There's not much of a point in fighting at all in this game unless you're almost out of EP, and you're almost never out of EP. One thing I won't complain too much about is the actual battle system. I wish they would have kept what they had going in 13-2, but honestly the battle system in Lightning Returns was the least of its problems. The story that I was so invested in just didn't make any goddamn sense at this point. Someone please tell me how Saz and Snow were both about 1,000 years in the future and looked like they hadn't aged a day. Well, maybe Snow did, but that dude's seen some shit. I wanted to like this game. I wanted to like all of these games, but Lightning Returns was the worst one of all. They put a damn time limit that's constantly ticking down, and made it so the only way you can gain stats is by doing lengthy fetch questy side quests. There is no other way to gain stats in this game. Like, literally the only two game mechanics that should never exist together in the same game are time limits and mandatory fetch quests. I know some people might make an argument about Majora's Mask being great, and personally I love Majora's Mask, but in Majora's Mask, you can reset the clock pretty much whenever the fuck you want, and go back to the first day. This game, you can add days, kind of, but you can't just reset back to the first day, and it's just awful. This one was so bad that I just felt like I was wasting my time every minute I was playing it. I knew it wasn't going to be getting any better, only worse, and I quit this game after one 4-hour stream. I just couldn't do it, man. The game mechanics just ruined it for me so much. I've looked up the story and saw the ending too, and it was more or less garbage. I thought the part where everyone's souls go to a new planet and that world is basically our world, Earth, I thought that was actually pretty cool, but these characters never get the ending they deserve, and this game really shouldn't have existed. Anyways, that was my little rant about the Final Fantasy XIII Trilogy. If, like me, you're interested in the story these games have to offer, but just can't stand the gameplay, I highly recommend watching Gamers Little Playgrounds movies of these games on YouTube. Another thing that you just can't take away from these games are the amazing soundtracks. Lightning Returns maybe isn't as good as the first two, but really these games all have some incredible tracks in them that unfortunately a lot of people will never hear. If they ever remake or remaster these games, I hope they take the battle system from 13-2 and use it in 13, as well as fix the balance issues. They could pretty much leave 13-2 alone. It was a good game in and of itself. I don't know what they could do to fix Lightning Returns though. Maybe make it so enemies give you experience points so you can level up that way if you'd like. Have some stronger enemies drop garbs so you aren't stuck doing all these crappy side quests while watching the clock tick down to your doom. Maybe get rid of the whole clock thing altogether. Have each day last until you've completed one of the main story arcs, kind of how Final Fantasy X-2's chapters worked. You know a game is bad when I'm wanting to fix it using a feature from Final Fantasy X-2. Jeez. I hope you enjoyed this rant. Let me know what you like or don't like about the 13 trilogy in the comments. Give this video the old thumbs up, and if you haven't yet, subscribe and follow me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Dookie03. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and have yourselves a great day.